Well, hello. Laura Brandenburg here with Molly Zglobicki, sorry, from Maine. I practiced it even beforehand. Welcome, Molly. She is one of our Circle of Success founding members and had some pretty amazing transformation in her career this year. And I'm so grateful that she has agreed to share a little bit of that journey with you, because I think a lot of people find themselves in situations like she found herself in, and feel a bit like trapped and not sure where to go. So I'm really grateful, Molly, that you're going to share a bit of your story with us, and I hope that it inspires whoever might be listening in to this interview. So to start us off, can you just share a little bit about like where you were at the beginning of 2019, and just start us off there.
Sure. At this time last year, I was looking for a new job.
Mm-hmm.
I was also, I had started studying for my CCBA. So, reading the Baybock, and had a goal of getting that certification from the IIBA. Had found some of your material online and really liked it. And I'm not sure exactly how I found out about Circle of Success, but decided it would be a good thing for me to try it out and join the group, and have, immediately started benefiting, I think, from just chatting with other BA-minded folks, even though there was a mixture of people who are already business analysts or just getting into it. And the teachings were great. At that time, it was definitely easier for me working from home with a very flexible schedule to join those teachings live.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a little more difficult now, but that's okay. It's a trade-off. So.
And what was prompting you? You had a lot of flexibility, but what was prompting you to look for a new position?
I was at a place that I was having a hard time seeing a road forward for myself there. And although there was a lot of flexibility and we were 100% remote workforce, it was a consulting company that had sort of taken several different paths over the course of handful of years that I was there, so about 6 years. And sort of having a difficult time managing the amount of work that the company sort of was taking on or needed to take on against the resources that we had.
Mm-hmm.
So I found myself sort of pulled in a lot of different directions. Anybody who's been in the consulting world, I think, understands how much effort it can take to go into a new client with a different type of business that you're not really familiar with. And wrapping that all up with the work that needs to be done. It just got to the point where my brain was sort of overloaded. I found myself working all hours of the day and just feeling like no matter how much I worked, I could not really keep up. So I spent quite a while looking around at companies in the area where I felt that I could go and have a more regular schedule, try to, leave my work at work kind of thing, and also have more of a clear path forward in terms of promotions and things like that.
Yeah, and you had done quite a bit of interviewing, correct?
I did. So I interviewed mostly with some larger companies in the area, some of them multiple times. Unfortunately, I think that it can be really difficult to get your foot in the door at a lot of these places. I repeatedly heard feedback, all great feedback, and got little in the way of even just constructive criticism. So it was kind of frustrating because on the one hand, they're saying, we're not going to hire you, but at the same time, you're great. Keep trying. We know you would do a great job.
Reapply, right, for new positions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did that a lot. I had a mixture of, I had lots of on-site interviews, lots of phone interviews, one or two sort of like this, online video. Yeah. And then eventually the job that I did end up getting, interestingly enough, was one I hadn't even applied for. I definitely went through some ups and downs with the effort that I was really putting forth. Some weeks I would apply for multiple jobs, and then, I would get discouraged and sort of lay off it because I can't handle getting another rejection email.
Yeah.
But I had applied for
this on top of working like more than a full-time job, right? So you had like a 50, 60, maybe more hour work week, and then you're trying to do a job search on top of that, which has just got to be exhausting. And young kids like me.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's a lot on your plate. Yeah.
It was helpful in terms of being able to schedule interviews, but I also I didn't tell my employer that I was looking for a job because I just thought that it would make things awkward. So it was kind of like I felt sneaky also. I was not like, I have to be gone for 3 hours because I have an interview. I just kind of put it on my calendar and said I wasn't going to be available. So,
right. And then the other thing is, my understanding was like before you got this new job, which I do want to talk about how that all came to be, but you had actually decided to leave your previous job. Like you had, even without the next opportunity lined up, right? You kind of had drawn the line in the sand, enough is enough. And
yeah.
What went into that decision?
I think I just decided that financially we could float it if I didn't have a job. In worst case, I could have gone out and, gotten a part-time job to help subsidize the income. But I was very stressed. I had, tried different things at work to help make things better. And like one of my coworkers at the time sort of expressed that, leaders are trying to tell us they're going to make change, but it just I don't really see that coming to fruition. And I just couldn't continue on down the path. I was suffering, I guess, it was affecting multiple areas of my life. And I said, this is got to stop regardless. And actually got contacted by somebody from where I'm at now for a job that I hadn't applied to, but my resume was in the system. So she said, are you interested in this position? And I said, sure. And
yeah. And it's interesting how sometimes we have to let go, right, in order for the right thing to turn up too. And all that effort that you put in created this opportunity, but then it came in a different way than you were expecting, right? So like your resume was in the system probably from all those interviews you'd done and jobs you'd applied for. Somehow it got into their hands. But it's interesting how sometimes the opportunity comes in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, is there anything else you want to share about that interview process or anything that came to light there? It seemed like it all happened pretty quickly, but that was from my perspective on the outside. I'm sure on the inside there was more to it than that. Yeah.
When I did get contacted by my current manager, that process was fairly quick. I did have to do some things. It's a hospital system, so I had to go and have like a health screening, which was interesting, something I've never done before. They're fairly secure, so I had to get my picture taken and stuff. But when I gave my notice, I gave them plenty of notice. Initially, it was like a month, and then I agreed to work for an additional month. So I think it was in May when I gave my notice, and I stopped working at the end of July. And I think it must have been in July that I was contacted by the person at my current job and was able to transition out of the role with the consulting company at the end of July and, move into my new role at the beginning of September after my kids went to school. So that was great. But I guess something else that I should talk about is during the whole interviewing process, I was definitely leaning on the group a lot for advice, and just talking about the interviews that I had and, you know, the rejections and getting feedback from people and support. That was great, because it was several months. And I think a lot of people had, you know, either shared similar experiences or just had really good insights, even if it was just about, you know, the attire for the particular interview that I was going on.
That's right. We had that whole thread about like what to wear in the summer, right? Like, and and sharing Amazon links of different blouse or little jackets and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That worked out great.
Yeah.
And just being able to connect with people on that sort of a combination of personal and professional level, and even just being reminded that everybody, you know, everybody experiences these things. And I think, I don't know if we ever really touched on it exactly, but the imposter theory, you know, it's just kind of feeling like maybe you don't fit in, or you're just pretending to really be the person in the role that you're actually in. I think I felt a lot of that in the group.
Yeah. Did that come up for you in this job search, that you felt like you were an imposter?
I don't, only in the sense that it's just stepping into that interviewee role and just doing things differently than you would, even when you go to work on the first day. You know, going into a room and interviewing with 7 people is a special kind of experience that just, I think, requires certain attention. You know, I always take notes, and I spent a long time training myself to remember people's names. So, you know, that's not part of imposter, but depending on what question you are asked, you may need to sort of put a different spin on an experience you've had, or, you know, some success that you've had in your career that you initially may have not applied it to that, but they ask you a question, you're like, okay, I can use this experience as an example of when I did this thing you're asking about.
Right. And and I think like it can feel, I think we get so used, what am I trying to say here? We can be uncomfortable with like promoting ourselves or talking about ourselves, that it's not that we are an imposter, right? It's that it feels that way because it's not something we do day to day and so it's a different feeling. It's like kind of like the way that you talk about your skill set and your experience with 7 people you don't know and who are making a decision about whether you get hired is very different than how you show up like with your partner or you know, so it can feel that way. And so I can see like having a group to lean back on and of people who have that shared experience, just to be like, okay, you're not alone, right? Like this is, we've all been through this, and have that feeling. And then you kind of leave and you're uncertain of even what the next step is. So yeah. So that's good. Thank you for sharing that. Are there any teachings that, you know, come to mind as you think about this year that helped you on this path?
Definitely the peeling the onion. I think I'm still working on that one a little bit, or it's just kind of an ongoing process.
Of uncovering your limiting beliefs. And is there anything that stands out that you've reframed this year?
I think right now I'm going through a big transition where I'm realizing that I'm really a good BA and what value I can bring to the company. I've been spending a long time just trying to get the lay of the land. I spent a few months in training, so I had been in this kind of an other world that was really sort of walled off from real work that was going on. So for the past month almost, I've been doing real work and feel like I've been able to dive into that and am already creating value, which I might not have expected to do, I guess. I don't know, a couple months ago, I might not have told you that I would feel this way, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's huge, right? Just like, oh, look at, like, I'm my first month and I'm already adding value on my projects, right? It's part of the culture, I think, that is in the community for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, in general, the teachings, every time I, you know, am either able to participate in them directly or just listening to them after the fact, there's always something of value there, that to hear somebody else's experience or just insight into the teachings.
Yeah. Yeah, and they're really designed to kind of shift your thinking, right, about what is acceptable in a work environment, how you show up can actually change the results that you've had too. Because when you start to show up expecting yourself to deliver value, like you just said, it trains you to look for opportunities to add that value really quickly, and then you get to experience that, and then you get to celebrate that in the group, and that kind of creates that positive cycle. So that's it sounds like you're getting some of those pieces as you're going through them. That's wonderful. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. And so how are you liking the new role? You've been there, you probably 3 months now? You had 2 months of training and now a month of
almost 4 months. Yeah.
Okay.
So I started the beginning of September and I finished up my training at the beginning of this month, beginning of December. I like it. There's a lot going on. It is a really large organization, which is something that's new to me. I had worked at a place that had about 2,000 employees several years back, and this place has over 20,000. So there are a lot of IT folks together in this one building where I work. And I've been given a few lines of business. It's a hospital system, so I am focusing on some services. One of the main areas is revenue, which is something I really don't know anything about. I'm not like an accounting person or revenue person. So right away it was like, you know, what's RCM? I don't even know what that means. You know, looking up what that means and getting involved with the group that's going to be using our reporting tools. So I work in enterprise reporting, and they have not had much attention, and right away, you know, just a couple of meetings, it's, you know, I can see where there are some gaps in communication, and, you know, I sat with them and said, if I can talk to all of the groups that fall under your umbrella and get a grasp of what's going on, I'll be able to help you guys a lot in terms of what you need for reporting, and it'll probably have a downstream effect of helping them with their process, standardizing their process, because there are going to be things in the reporting system that depend on what a user does in the front end. So, you know, just listening to them and their pain points around that. And I've also been asked to get involved in another project. So, you know, in general, right away, I almost feel kind of overwhelmed. But at the same time, being such a large organization, I think everybody understands that, especially with a larger project, it takes some time. So right now, I'm sort of stepping back and looking at everything that I'm tasked with and sort of trying to keep a handle on priorities, and, you know, understanding that this new project is, you know, it's going to be a year before we really get it sorted out. So, you know, that's going to take maybe 5% of my time every week. And hopefully I can work with this group for 50% of the time. And there's just a lot of sort of political stuff. So it's kind of overwhelming, but I think I'm learning pretty quickly, and just reaching out to people that I work with, asking questions, and trying to, people are really supportive, so it's great.
Yeah, and it sounds like you had, like, it's natural, like in a new position, right, to have things to learn, and to kind of be the one who, like, even with all that training, who knows the least, right? So you bring that discipline of business analysis, and I feel like your energy around, like, oh, I didn't know that term, like, was really good energy. Like, that's the strength of the BA skill set or that confidence in the BA skill set that you're bringing. So, like, oh, it's just a term, I've got to learn it and I'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of, there's been a lot of times that I'm like, wow, this is just so business analyst like, these things that I'm doing, but
yeah,
I think it's a sort of a personality and just a way that I get work done.
Yeah. And what's your schedule like now? Because that was the big difference that you wanted.
Yeah, I get to go to work. It has changed the dynamic quite a bit. So my kids, I drop them off at before care, and then I hop on the highway, and I get to work usually around 8:30, and I just put in my 8 hours. So, I can take a lunch break if I want, but I usually kind of just work through it so that I can leave earlier. So, it's kind of 9 to 5, 8:30 to 4:30, and just get back in the car, and I can be home in time to, make dinner and stuff. And I'm not up in the middle of the night working or working on weekends. It took me a little while to get used to that. Not working Sunday night, sort of have the work hanging over my head, and then Sunday night putting in a few hours. I don't do that anymore.
Right. So what do you do with your time?
Oh, my son is in gymnastics 3 nights a week. So, we're still real busy running around, but
I should have guessed that with kids, right? Like,
yeah,
it's not like it stops being busy.
Right. And we actually, just today, we had tenants. Over the summer, we had a big project on our property. We had a garage built and an apartment above it. So they moved in today.
Nice.
But they shouldn't take up much of our time.
Yeah,
it's great because I can, just spend my time doing things around home, or, spend more time with the family.
Right. Or get some sleep.
I'm not trying to work. Yeah, that too.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, you've been really generous with your time and your story. Is there anything else that you wanted to make sure to share with people who are listening
in? I just think that it's a great group, and both in terms of if you needed sort of procedural or technical support about how to go about solving a problem at your workplace, or support with interviewing, or just to, sharing the wins over Slack is really great to hear about other people's successes, even, how small or large they may be. It's been a great supportive group, and the teachings and the professional coaching has been really valuable. And thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I always like to ask, because one of the things I've realized in creating this circle of success, right, is success actually looks a little bit different to everyone that's part of the group. What does success look like to you?
I think it's, for me, being happy with my work, feeling like I'm able to make a difference at work, and also that I can, go home and leave work at work and have that work-life balance where, I can do things and have time with family, and not be burdened with thinking about work all the time. And next year, maybe I'll be making more money, and who knows, maybe I'll get promoted, because I know there are a few levels to this position that I'm in now, and I'm at the first level. So
yeah, We'll have to start talking about the strategy for that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
that would be great to ask as coaching questions. Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And I love the sense of balance. And that's why I was really excited to share your story too. And because so many people get into that situation where it feels like, how do you get out? Right. And just like that, it can take some persistence. It can take, some time, and it can feel really hard along the way. And you might hear a lot of no's, but like that opportunity is there, and to continue to keep moving forward towards it. And thank you for sharing that. And I'm sure it's going to inspire a lot of people. All right.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Molly.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah.